beat that. That was phenomenal. I'm amped. I can go like work out after this or something. Maybe hit a PR or something. That got me going.
Yeah, we should make this a walking talk. I like
Yes.
that. How's everyone doing this morning or this afternoon? Good? Let's go. Rushi, introduce yourself to the crowd here.
So this is interesting because I'm not directly in DePIN. So when Mahesh invited me, I'm like, yo, what do you want me to yap about for 15 minutes? But yeah, I'm Rushi, one of the co-founders of Movement Labs. My background is engineering and distributed systems and cybersecurity. I've always been interested in DePIN, but what me and Ash were talking about is everything is DePIN. A blockchain is a coordinated a group of nodes. And it's physical nodes, so isn't that a DePIN project? So I guess by building a blockchain and building a layer 2 on Ethereum, that is DePIN by trade. But really, the real word for DePIN is just use cases, right? That extend into areas like weather, that extend into areas like climate, and even like GPUs, which we'll get into. But yeah, we're building the infrastructure to enable DePIN so that you can execute high throughput and secure transactions while remaining on Ethereum for liquidity. So hopefully inspiring some of you guys to build on top of us, or if not, help you in any way that you can.
Awesome, thank you for that. Quick intro on myself. I'm Ash Egan, founder of Archetype. We're backers of Movement and some of the other teams here today. Great to be here. And so, yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Movement ecosystem and the likes. Maybe to kick us off, Movement raised a $38 million Series A earlier this year with the mantra to make blockchain security sexy again. Why is security such a big focus, and maybe how do you guys compare against other chains?
I think we go back to the story of when Zuckerberg started Facebook. He built Facebook in his college dorm in like 2 months, was able to get it to market, launch it, get feedback, and it took off. That same thing isn't possible in crypto. If you launch a DeFi app, don't get it audited, put it on market, it will get hacked. So what that creates is a huge barrier to entry for entrepreneurs, where you have to spend 100 grand plus to audit it. It takes months to debug code. Solidity, for anyone who's written Solidity at all, is a train wreck. So picture me, 19-year-old me in college dorm at Vanderbilt. I was writing a DeFi app on Ethereum in early Cosmos, and shit show is horrible. I couldn't afford auditing. It took forever to debug my code, and I got frustrated. So around August 2022, I read this article that said Facebook was building a new programming language because they saw the shit show that the EVM was. Many of you guys are building on Solana, and honestly, if I wasn't building Movement, I'd build on Solana. And the thesis is there's better alternatives to the Ethereum virtual machine. The biggest issue with EVM and even smart contract in general is that there's $4.5 billion lost every year in smart contract hacks. If we're ever gonna get crypto to the point where my mom, my parents, my pet goldfish is comfortable using crypto, we can't get hacked for this much. And for you guys building DePIN, like when you guys have GPU credentials on chain, if that gets leaked, you have billions of dollars of assets potentially gone. Daylight's doing energy grids. I'm not an investor, but that'd be pretty bad if you got energy grids leaked and now people can access that. There's some nuclear projects that are building on DePIN. I don't even want to talk about what happens when nuclear credentials get leaked. So our thesis is security in crypto is broken. Everyone knows that security is important. It's not like privacy. The issue, and the transparent issue, is that there's no security coins that pumped. There's no privacy coins that pumped. So no one cares about it. Everyone's okay with it. So the work that we're trying to do is make it part of the narrative, part of the ecosystem. Yes, you have parallelization. Yes, it's high throughput. But security is a core part of the narrative where we envision a future where the future is secure, fast, cheap programming on Ethereum, on any ecosystem. Even for those building on Solana, Solana is working on Move as well, part of the LLVM. So our vision is in the 5 to 10 year landscape, Move takes over everything. We have Move on Solana. Next year just announced Move on Bitcoin. We have Move on Ethereum. The mantra has always been Move everywhere in Movement.
Maybe to hit on where you guys are today and some of the changes from the dorm room 2 years ago. Just on the 30th, you guys put out the testnet. Parthenon with 32 apps, 1.1 million addresses. What has the evolution been like from 2 years ago? And where are you guys today as sort of an ecosystem?
I mean, 2 years ago was this idea, right? It was just me, me and my co-founder Cooper, with like $500 in our bank account, and we're just like, this like move thing is cool, but I kind of don't want to build on this existing L1s. I want to build something else. I want to use Ethereum liquidity. The biggest issue, especially when Solana was trading like $9 back in the day, was these alt VMs, these new execution environments, really lack liquidity. So the question is, how do you bring existing liquidity from Ethereum, Bitcoin, et cetera, and bring it to new programming paradigms? So I think since then, in addition to tech stack, I think community has been really important. I don't really want to shill movement. I want to talk about like what you guys can take away. I think one thing that we've done really well is like being grassroots with builders. When you're building an ecosystem, they don't want to talk to your third BD guy. They want to talk to the founders. They want to talk to ecosystem projects. One of our DePIN projects here is Up Network, and they're building a completely new mobile phone. In the past, like Solana Saga was obviously very interesting, but it was from Solana Labs, so it was really limited to the bandwidth of Solana mobile phone. Up Network, and there's someone in the crowd here today, is building a complete new mobile phone. They already sold 5 million units, more focused in Southeast Asia and China. But that's really cool to us because A, it's a new use case that no other chain is doing, but B, it's something I focus on a daily basis. So I think just working with cool builders has been a major thing.
One of the things we look for when we're backing entrepreneurs is identifying a superpower. And I feel like with you, Rushi, building out community is one of your superpowers. Inherent to building out DePIN communities, DePIN communities go sort of hand in hand. What are some of the lessons, high-level lessons that you can express on the audience today on how to build out an audience and build out a community?
You have to take risks. I think we're going to get into this as well, but like the market doesn't want the same ZK EVM based L4 that's raised 5 times. Like many of you guys are venture capitalists in the crowd. We see the infrastructure fatigue. Even Ash is probably going through this archetype diligence. No one wants more infrastructure. I think we're at the point where, and it's kind of makes no sense for me as an infrastructure builder, but we have the block space. We have high throughput capacities. Now we're kind of looking at, okay, how do we bring these new use cases, new DePIN products? But it can't be the same go-to-market strategy, right? I think Helium paved the way originally, but now it's like, how do we tap into these Web 2 audiences? How do we tap into Gen Z audiences? So something we're seeing right now is a lot more TikTok branding, a lot more Instagram branding that wasn't there 3 years ago. And I think that one thing that we've done, even with our testnet, the testnet itself is an on-chain MMO. Typically, testnets work. It's like, oh, you have a bridge, a DEX, et cetera, and you farm that, and you call it a day. We took a gamble. We did a fully on-chain MMO. If you go testnet.movementlabs.xyz, it is basically a game where you can play the apps, build a Parthenon. And yes, there were bugs. Yes, there was things we had to take care of, and it was a risk. But that's what got people going. And I think when you guys are building DePIN communities or ecosystem communities, you have to be willing to take risks. Otherwise, you're just going to do the same playbook that didn't work in the past.
Maybe specific to the intersection of movement and DePIN, like what ideas are you most excited about for DePIN teams building on movement, like the early teams there, if you can highlight, and then just maybe more broadly, like big ideas within DePIN that you hope to bring over to the movement ecosystem in the coming years?
Yeah, so I think like Ethereum, even today, doesn't really have a good DePIN culture because it simply can't. Like if you try doing any kind of DePIN on Ethereum L1, you're paying like $10 a transaction. If you're like Helium and you have millions of transactions, or if you're like managing GPUs, you simply need more block space. So I think that definitely puts you in the lens of, okay, we need either a parallelized EVM, you need SVM, you need MoveVM, something kind of a better execution pattern. You need a better engine to power your chain. I think one thing that we do unique is we recognize that a lot of you builders here, you want your customized block space. So even like on Solana, there's obviously congestion issues. So we were talking to IONET, who like obviously does distributed GPUs, and they ran into an issue where their Solana was congested, so transactions weren't going through. Obviously, Solana is fixing that, and we expect that with Fire Dancer, we should see 10x improvements. But many of you guys will want custom chains. A, let's be honest, your valuation will be higher if you have a custom app chain. And then B, you can customize your throughput, customize the sequencer, own all the profit. One of the biggest issues with Pump.Fun is, yes, they're making a lot of money, but the value still accrues to Solana. What if there's a role where there's a Pump.Fun chain and they can have all that value go to them? So something we're working with our DePIN builders is having them launch a custom move stack chain where you can build an OP stack, use whatever DA layer, use the VM, so you have a high throughput engine, and you own the rights to your entire block space. So we want you, if you're going to be bringing 1 million users plus to your chain, you should make all the MEV, you should make all the transaction fees, control the end-to-end infrastructure. So we're going to be rolling out our stack and our RAS providers, so you can do one-click deployment of a 5,000 plus TPS chain, which has never been done before, and then connect that with our shared sequencer. So I think going on the use cases, like obviously we're still exploring here. GPUs is particularly interesting. I was actually in SF, which is where we're based, and a lot of these AI companies, in the past, if you want to rent a GPU, the minimum renting period is like 6 to 12 months, which if you don't have a lot of bandwidth and you can't afford that, it's really difficult. But with Akash, with IONET, you can now rent 10 minutes, 30 minutes of GPUs, which is really interesting. So we're hoping to work with some GPU teams there. And then particularly some of the teams in front of us, like Daylight, I just saw the Raise announcement. Super cool stuff, right? Like decentralized solar panels. I'm not a weather expert. I don't really know solar space. But that's some cool introspective thinking that I think Mahesh touched on this, right? The point of DePIN is the centralized authorities like wireless providers, like energy providers. The point of DePIN is to disrupt the norm and take power away from centralized authorities, more on a philosophical level.
Maybe specific to one concept we're seeing bubble up, and just with sort of early pre-sales of the phones, the Solana phone. Do you think phones and mobile as sort of a addressable market are exciting for sort of the next wave or the current wave of DePIN founders and teams?
Of course. I mean, we're looking at TON right now, right? TON, token price is up, which is phenomenal for all holders, but they have actual real users, which crypto has struggled with in the past. Distribution has always been difficult. Getting on the App Store has been difficult. So what the TON ecosystem, the TON Rush showed is like these mini games and these trading bots enable me as a Telegram user who uses it hours a day to actually have crypto apps instead of like some weird signing thing and getting a phishing attack. So I think the future is definitely mobile, and we need more hardware devices that are mobile, gaming devices that are mobile. So I think the TON example is the best example of that.
Another point I want to hit on is just there's some parallels around sort of DePIN teams and geography, right? Like yep. It's inherently geographically bound to some extent. With Movement, you guys have been very intentional around building out communities in specific geographies. Like, how do you think about marrying the two, or even just like putting the flag in different geos and getting ideas and communities off the ground?
Well, the thing is recognizing it's not going to happen in the States first. Like, politics is a shit show here. Like, even if you do DePIN, you might get wrecked by Gensler. So we're doing a lot of work, and like we just had Move in Vietnam meetup, which is really cool, and Move in Germany. So I think like the Southeast Asia, I think Singapore, for example, Grab app in Singapore has a Web3 wallet built in, and Grab is like the Uber, the super app of Southeast Asia, and every Web3 wallet. Like every Grab user comes with a Web3 wallet that you can buy food with, you can pay for Ubers with, and that's a really cool feature that we don't even know about because we don't hear about it. But in developing markets, for example, 1/3 of Argentina uses crypto, which is super cool because we think that crypto is not really mainstream, but in broader markets, people need crypto, use crypto, and I think even on the mobile example, right? Like I'm not going to use an Android because it gets green messages and my friends will bully me, but people in Asia, they obviously use Samsung. No one really uses iPhones there because A, it's really expensive, and B, WhatsApp is a driving factor, right? So imagine you can have mobile phones that have wallets built in because they can actually use Samsung. So I think the number one driving factor will come from Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and we're seeing Latin America as well.
So I think we have time for one more question, and I want to hit on it just given the event today. So we have a few dozen DePIN founders in the audience. What do you want them to remember on Monday when they're sharing what they learned today with their teams and their friends and their colleagues?
We're just getting started, baby. DePIN is going to revolutionize everything we do. We started off with Helium. I've started using Helium. That's just the start of where we are. I think we're going to get a point where your mom's going to be using DePIN and she won't even be knowing it's crypto. So we're just getting started. Keep doing it. You have a community. Mahesh has been leading the charge with EV3 and being the face of DePIN from a venture point of view. And any way we can support you from Ash's venture arm or moving as an infrastructure arm, we'd love to support you guys.
Thank you, Rushi.
Thanks, Ash.
Thanks all.
Hey, guys.